So let's
Yes.
let's continue. So we were listing there the benefits, right? Another one there, of course, the idea of the spirit guide. This is, in almost all philosophies, all religions or cultures, there is always this idea that there is this being that is more evolved, positive, benign, and wants to help us. And then they have received a lot of names, of course, spirit guides, illuminated beings, beings of lights, angels, helpers, masters, ascended beings. I don't know how many names we have come up with. But we usually call them helpers. But the thing is that, again, by our own experience, we can leave the body and we can have conversations with them. We can consult things. We can, learn from them. So only those types of experiences are really already worth it, aside from all the other things. But people also do it for a lot of other reasons. Some people, a little bit related to the idea of death, they want to leave the body and they want to find, for example, relatives of theirs that already passed away, sort of like to verify if they are okay. Something that is feasible, actually completely feasible. So, in all of these, perspectives or benefits, they give us a greater understanding of us, of life, of who we are, of the fact that we are more consciousnesses or souls, and not just simply human bodies. And even though I would say most people would agree with that statement that we are much more than the physical body, what happens in the practice and in the day to day is that we tend to behave as if we are only this physical body because of the requirements of life to a certain extent, and because we are a little bit disconnected from that. So the physical body sort of like keeps us a little bit more, in tune with it. Now, so that of course occurs. Now, in the out of body experiences, there with helpers and spirit guides and everything, some things that I guess little by little everybody starts to do is that as we are interacting with them, we start sort of like to wonder or to study them in the sense of, what makes them them and us, meaning why are they much more evolved than us? Not so much in a competitive sense, but in the sense of what can I do or what can I, how could I say, improve so as to little by little start to, myself start to grow and start to develop. And I even stress this of not in a competitive sense because actually part of that what they are trying to do is to give us a hand so that we can grow much more, so that we can develop much more. And usually their concerns are mainly that, the evolution, the development of the individuals, and at the same time assistance, trying to help, everybody. So as we are interacting with them, we start, for example, having better models of ethics, better models of humanity, and this is again also very interesting because if we compare this to normal society, in society sometimes the models for most people of success, I guess, are usually athletes or actors that, of course, they are successful in their fields, and those are maybe the most popular fields. But those are things that are very physical, very materialistic, very mundane to a very great extent. And sometimes, even though they might be successful on that specific field, when we sort of like study the rest of their behavior outside that field, we realize that they probably should not be models of, of most of the other things. So having, evolutionary models, like having them as evolutionary models, sort of like gives a very specific direction, to what evolution is, to how we can develop further. One of the very big things that how could I say, it's not determines, but one of the very big things that represents them or that characterizes them, I should say better, is the idea of assistance, of helping others. And of course, we all consider this to be positive, to be good, and everything. But it's, by interacting with them that we start to think about, okay, if it's so positive, how much of it am I doing? Or how much am I contributing, with others, or even with them, or with, the ones that can have different needs. And the interesting thing is that usually when we study them, normally assistance in very few instances implies material things like money. Certainly, a lot of people sometimes need that in that sense, but really it's more an assistance to try for the person to understand better itself and for the person to start to deal better with life and to relate better, even to others. So that is a big part of the type of assistance that they do with us. Trying to help us to understand others, to understand life, to understand, this aspect of evolution. So to a certain extent, they work a little bit, or they look a little bit like a teacher of school, and we sometimes look a little bit like the kid in school. So that they are really trying to give us skills for us to be able to, to apply them, to develop them, and also for us to become every time more complete individuals, more, more fulfilled individuals at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I guess that in essence, in the classes that we give have exactly that objective. It's not just the phenomenon of the out-of-body experience. Certainly, that's a big part of it, but it's also all the consequences, all the benefits that come from that, and understanding all of that. And maybe something I should even show, just because
Yes.
usually people are surprised by the amount of information that exists. So this is the first small little pocket book, as we joke.
Yes.
But the book of projectology, that basically is again the study of the out-of-body experiences. This one is in English, of course. Can be Amazon. It's everywhere, I guess. And this one is in Portuguese, conscienciology. So this is the other one that studies more the essence of the consciousness. We are working to translate both of them actually into several languages, but it takes a while, takes a few years to get to it. So
So have you met Waldo Barrera?
yes, we're actually good friends.
Okay.
I've been giving classes for about 50 years, more or less, and
Wow.
he's certainly a very interesting person, quite a character in the good sense of the word. The talking about him, he realized since he was very young, basically, that most philosophies, most cultures know a little bit about the out-of-body experience. They talk a little bit about the out-of-body experiences in the sense that this is nothing new. But also he realized that most of these philosophies, since they are a little bit more traditionalistic or, set in their ways, let's put it this way, they usually don't share information one from the other, or they don't update, how could I say, their information, because again, they tend to stay with the same thing for hundreds, thousands of years sometimes. So something that he decided to do was to spend about 20, 30 years of his life going about the world, collecting as many books and pieces of the puzzle, if you will, as he could, from, as many cultures as he could, so as to try to put all of these pieces of the puzzle together. And then the combination of this was the projectology book, the first book, or the first edition of that book, because this is already in its, I think it's fourth edition, so it has grown in size, in volume. But and it has grown in size not only with his research, certainly he is the main researcher, the initial researcher, but also a lot of other people over the world nowadays especially have kept on adding material to the pot. All of my other colleagues and everything. Most of my colleagues, they are doctors, they are psychologists, but they're scientists of all kinds, physicists, biologists, chemists, sociologists, everything. And also, something interesting to say, I always like to point this out, is that there is a certain percentage of my colleagues, smaller percentage, yes, but still a good number, that don't necessarily have a college degree. But they have a lot of experience with all of this, and they contribute with all of this experience. And this really is more than welcome, by all means. Yeah. So, Dr. Vieira, he's still alive. He's still there, writing, researching, studying.
And he's in Brazil still.
He lives in Brazil. Yes, he lives in Brazil. Before he used to travel a little more, but now he's a little more busy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because writing those books takes time.
Yes.
And those are not it. We have several other
Mm-hmm.
that usually we don't show in the classes because they start to scare people.
Overwhelming, yeah.
Sometimes we that are his, how could I say, close colleagues to him, sometimes we complain. We sort of like have this inside joke and we say, look, you are writing faster than we can read. So slow down. But he's at it. It's not only him. It's really he's certainly the main piece by far. I wouldn't want to play that down. But there's also a group of researchers with him also writing every day and helping and everything. So they are pretty busy going at it. Even at this moment, his biggest endeavor is trying to write an encyclopedia of conscientiology. So, an encyclopedia has one volume for each letter. So each letter at the end is going to be more or less the size of each one of those books.
Wow.
So at this moment, he has a few volumes out. But all of these are being, enriched every day. So at the end, they'll be, like the size of the Encyclopedia Britannica, I guess.
Right. Oh, wonderful.
And all of that, of course, is, the big thing that contributes, again, is the out-of-body experience. It's the perspective that usually is less known, I guess, from the physical point of view. And of course, for us, those are probably the most important things, the idea of the spiritual evolution. But the OBE can be used for so many other things. I wish, a lot of other scientists and colleagues of ours at the same time, conventional scientists, could use it for a lot of other things. For example, even for space exploration. Sometimes we hear about how many millions and billions of dollars are used, in machines that most of the times they work very well, but sometimes they don't. And, even lives are lost. And there is no need for that. Really, I'm not an astronomer, but I can see, an astronomer developing these abilities very well and starting to do all of this without, the need for a lot of funding.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's kind of how, like, the one cool thing with Bashar, the being that Daryl channels, is he gets into the physics of not only their civilization, but how they operate their spaceships and how they travel in time, and it all has to do with that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Even because the one thing, you leave the body, you see different machines that do different things, and different technologies also that do a lot of different things than what you find here inside the body. Some of them are easier for us to understand. Some of them are very difficult for us to understand. It would just simply require a lot of time. It's not so much that it's difficult. It's, again, an issue of time. But yes, you see all the applications of this for science, archaeology, for example, with the recollections of past lives. It would be much, much easier. And so, it has a lot of applications.
Mm-hmm.